problem we are trying to solve? World peace. Well, some days it feels as daunting as that, and in all candor, solving the education problem is really a step in solving world peace, or at least towards the greater Los Angeles. Our problem that we're tackling is the challenge of all children receiving a high-quality education that prepares them for success and learning in life. What does that mean? They're personally content and lifelong learners, contributing to the economic well-being of Los Angeles, participating in the democratic process and in civic life. What does it take for a child to get from birth to high school graduation? Children need quality teachers, physical and mental health care, appropriate and effective academic support, exposure to enriching and self-expressive experiences like the arts, music, sports, youth development opportunities, and adults who love and nurture them. At LAEP, we recognize that middle and upper class students have much greater access to these critical parts of growing up, often because high poverty communities don't have many enriching places. Their schools are historically failing, their parents are unfamiliar with what an educationally nurturing home looks like because they didn't grow up in one, or they're living in a community where violence and trauma are common, reducing students' abilities to sit still and focus on academics. As an education nonprofit, we're focused on bridging the divide between the vision of all children receiving a high-quality education and the reality that there isn't a level playing field for that to happen. We concentrate on supporting high-poverty communities in LA to become places where children thrive and graduate high school, truly ready to succeed in college, career, and life. We do this by building the capacity of not taking over the two most important learning environments, the home and the school. All of that work is grounded in what we call our core principles: high-quality instruction, collaboration and teacher leadership, college and career readiness, student empowerment, parents as partners, and equity. We work with schools and families in partnership. Those schools where we use our philanthropic dollars to go deep, we provide a community school coordinator and coaches, and we call those schools our partner schools. We also bring educators together in networks for shared learning. The networks are based upon the interests of teachers in the schools we work with. We have facilitated a teacher leader network for almost 30 years. In addition, we foster content networks, like One for Math, where they deconstruct lessons into Common Core. But let's get into the meat of what LAEP fosters. High-quality instruction. For us, that's inquiry-driven. It requires students to respond orally and in writing. It's multidisciplinary, helping students take information from many sources and subjects. It uses project or solutions-based learning and often integrates the arts, creativity, and real work aligned with the theme of the lesson or the school. Common Core, anyone? Collaboration and teacher leadership, we know. There must be a visionary leader at a school for it to be effective, but that leader must promote authentic collaboration and teacher leadership, giving them the opportunity to lead instruction with a focus on the mission and the vision of the school and the academic needs of every student, building the capacity of the teacher to be leaders at their school and in a district. College and career prepared. Students need to understand what it takes to realize their dreams, the nuts and bolts of being ready for and applying to college, the context of what it means to work and to experience work environments, such as internships and site visits. They need the relevance of real life through project-based learning to make instruction meaningful. And they need to be able to prepare resumes, work in the workplace, and have interview skills. Student empowerment is also part of that. One of the biggest obstacles to student success is low expectations. And we want students, their parents, and teachers to have high expectations for them. So we encourage students and parents to learn together, like in student-led conferencing. Equity is really about ensuring that a community school coordinator, someone on the campus, is making sure that all students get what they need. So what do we do, though, in the home? The home is the place, you might be surprised, that LAEP has worked for over 20 years, providing early childhood programs centered around home visitation and partnership with elementary schools, recognizing that a parent is a child's first teacher, and helping schools understand that as well. Our vision is that there should be a continuum of learning from birth through high school. We emphasize the same things in early education, just from a developmentally different place. We encourage inquiry, creativity, small group work, and our home visitors are regularly assessing the progress of the children with their parents so that they understand how to ask questions about their physical and intellectual growth, not just asking questions like, is my child nice? We use a community school approach in both our schoolwork and our home-based work that bring parents together to identify barriers and figure out strategies to address them. We connect them with professional supports, but we connect them with each other so that they and their children get the help that they need early and often. At LAEP, it is also part of our mission to practice and sustain best practices. To that end, we're part of the advocacy community in Los Angeles. We share what we do with research organizations across the country so we can all learn from each other. We publish a national weekly newsletter that reinforces what work looks like on the ground, and we encourage you to be part of that national newsletter. So what does it take for a cute child like this to grow up and be successful? In our view, it's collective impact. It's all of us working together towards the shared goal, her success. It's about building the relationships that between all of us ensure that we're rowing together, that we trust each other, that we collaborate, that we step back when it's someone else's time to do the work, and that we shift from being compliance-driven to problem solvers. And here are the staff at LAEP who are the most mission-driven and hardworking people you'll find in Los Angeles. Hopefully many of you are already working with them at the schools throughout Los Angeles. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Ryan Smith. He is the Director of Education Programs and Policy for the United Way of Greater Los Angeles, where he oversees the Communities for Los Angeles Student Success, or more commonly known as CLASS. Prior to joining the United Way, Ryan worked for Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa's Partnership for LA Schools as the Senior Director of Family and Community Engagement. And recently, Ryan was named by Education Week as one of the 10 education leaders to watch nationally. And he also received the 2012 Families in Schools Parent Engagement Leader Award. We have some really stellar people here. I just need to take another moment to acknowledge. And his kind of personal fun fact right now is his obsession with Otis Redding and Sam Smith, who's coming out. If you do not have that song already in your head, you need to go home and listen to it because it'll get stuck. So let's please welcome Ryan Smith.
First of all, you have to start when I say go, okay? I come from a family of ministers, and the idea that you speak in 30 seconds per point is something really foreign. So I'm going to try my best. All right, I have my timer. All right. I'm ready. All right, so first of all, I want to say thank you to the audience. I want to thank the Arts for LA team. My name is Ryan Smith. As I said, I'm Director of Education Programs and Policy for the United Way of Greater Los Angeles. And we're going to talk about what it means to build a political will for educational change here. Thank you, Danielle. And I want to say kick butt in your next job. We all remember this painting. One of the reasons I have it up here is, number one, if you're a latchkey kid like me in the 80s, you used to watch this painting at the Huxtable wall on the Cosby Show, which I was raised on. And I always thought about that impacting me. And the second piece is the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. But I just opposed that against Gompers Middle School. It is a school in the heart of Watts, which I worked with. 50% of the students at this school are in foster care. This is a segregated school with almost all black and brown students, but I started a program there dedicated to student leadership. And I met a really interesting student named Dejan. Dejan, this is not him, I didn't want to put him on blast. Dejan Sutphin was an amazing student, but people thought he was being a troublemaker. He had what we call the leadership potential, which we put on a lot of African-American boys who act out, but people didn't think he would do well. Well, we had a big interview for this youth program, and Dejan brought an object to explain who he was. He took a penny out of his pocket. And I said, oh, you didn't bring anything, a penny? But he said, you know, I'm just like this penny. Pennies become dimes, dimes become quarters, quarters become dollars, dollars become millions. And I can be someone if you believe in me. And I think about that when I think about the 650,000 Dejans in LAUSD. Right now, currently, if you think about it, only by the age of 13, 7 out of 10 students can read at grade level. Currently, only 67% of students graduate in 4 years. Only a fraction of them are off to college. And in 2010 alone in LAUSD, 10,000 students were pushed out of the system. Not dropped out, but pushed out because of the policies that we currently have in place for students who are behind. If you think about what this means for California, if 200,000 students who did not graduate actually graduate. We've seen a $904 million increase in earnings. We've seen 5,500 new jobs. We've seen $2.6 billion in home sales if we had just graduated those students. But we're talking about who's not graduating. Disproportionately, it's African-American men and brown young men. You look at this map right here, it shows you that in the state of California, we only graduate 50 to 60% of black men. There are something similar for Latino children, and this does open the door to prison. Nearly 60% of black men who are high school dropouts have done time in the prison by mid-30s. Nearly 65% of people in prison lack a high school diploma or equivalent. And those who lack a high school graduation, 72% are more likely to be unemployed. But when we talk about this issue, we have to start with equity, right? Equity, what does that mean? And I have this here because we have to be very real. We all don't start at the same start line. Some of us start 10 steps back, and we ask them to compete. So if we're going to talk about changing the system, we need to talk about providing resources to the students who are the most in need, the students that really matter, the students who live in poverty, students of color. And that's important, but it starts here with masses. You know, I love talking to my friends about education. They have a strong belief in a lot of issues that are important, like gay marriage, like immigration reform, like who's going to be the presidential candidate. But it gets quiet when we talk about education because it's so complicated. But if we're going to change education in this generation, we're going to have to change from the masses to a movement. We know right now that a lot of education reform efforts are led by policy, but no movement is led by policy, it's led by people. And it's the people who are the most impacted by it. So until we get students, parents, and teachers involved and committed to policy, we will never see a true change here in Los Angeles. Let me talk a little bit about my work. So I work for the United Way. And there is for Greater Los Angeles, and we're really committed to creating pathways out of poverty. There's 3 levers that we look at. One of the levers is education. There's a debate of whether we should be focusing on instruction in the classroom or we should be focused on strengthening our communities. I am not in that dogfight. I believe we need to do both. We need to focus on alleviating poverty and we need to focus on quality instruction. And one of the ways we're starting to do this is coalition building. I love Los Angeles, but it is a series of silos, siloed communities, siloed people, siloed conversations. But if we can work together to strengthen the fabric of education, we can make a difference. And I believe that we're working on that. Currently, we're working with teachers, parents, and students and community members to make a difference. But we're not leading from the front, we're trying to lead from behind. We're trying to build leaders who may make a difference in our lifetime. And here are some of the communities and community folks that we work with. Another large group is actually called CLASS, as you mentioned. It stands for Communities for Los Angeles Student Success. It's actually a consortium of 60 education organizations across the city. The great thing about this is they usually don't like each other. Most of these organizations would not get in the same room. But the great thing about the United Way is that it creates a table for people to have a conversation. It creates the result about how do we increase graduation. One of the things that CLASS did recently is that we put 375 desks in front of LAUSD to represent 375 students who are pushed out each school week within the district. That was there for 3 hours. That type of mobilization made a difference in the way people think about this. Another piece of our work is working with students. These students are actually mobilizing around getting a student advisor on the school board. Even though that student would be a nominal vote, they believe in youth voice. And they actually, because of their work, there will be a student on the school board by this time next year. They mobilized, got 3,000 petitions to do that. Not only that, working with parents. We work with a parent coalition across the city. They collected 1,000 surveys, visited 100 schools, and found, you know, you're treated differently in Bel Air than you are in Belmont. You're treated very differently depending which area that you're in. In fact, you're asked sometimes for your address before they even answer a question. I stopped to say that we always remember Frederick Douglass. He said, without struggle, there can be no progress. We're beginning the work here, but it begins with us in the room, having a conversation about how do we work together as community teachers and parents to really make a difference. And I join you to join us in that effort. Thank you.
Our last presenter is Sandy Escobedo, and she is the Senior Policy Analyst for the Advancement Project. Over the last 10 years, Sandy's professional experience spans from districts in New York through Teach for America to work in Philadelphia. She's been all over, and she serves as the Vice Chair for the Los Angeles Junior Chamber of Commerce and is a graduate of UC Santa Barbara, Fordham University, and the University of Pennsylvania. Escobedo, Sandy is the first in her family to graduate from college and grad school and is a dynamic person and a lovely person. And she, fun fact, is I think all of us are a little tired at this point of the year, and so she's a Grey Goose on the rocks kind of gal. Let's welcome Sandy.
Thank you all so much for being here. And first of all, give yourselves a round of applause for being advocates for the arts. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And as my colleagues have shared, this by no means has been a simple thing to do. What's the problem we're trying to solve here at Advancement Project, the organization I work for? I would argue it's the unfulfilled dream. The unfulfilled dream that children, particularly in low-income communities and communities of color, are not realizing their full potential. And I know that from personal experience. I am a proud graduate of LAUSD, but I'm sad to say that I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I had nothing but substitute teachers in my 7th grade pre-algebra class, but I was lucky enough to go to a magnet school, Bravo Medical Magnet, that opened up doors for me. It led me to UC Santa Barbara, where I had amazing experiences, like studying abroad in Bordeaux, France. Donc je parle un petit peu de français. And I was an art history major, hence why I love the arts so much. And I took a PechaKucha studies class, so I started raging against the machine. And so, once I started raging against the machine, I started to understand, wait a minute, whoa, hold up. There are some injustices that are endemic in our society, and it is our responsibility to change them. I started gaining the vocabulary to be able to express that. Things like being able to say the achievement gap. It reminded me of the kids that I grew up with in my schools, and it made me effing angry. Freaking angry. I know you're thinking about another F word. But all that to say, it led me to move to New York and to pursue what has been one of the most transformational experiences in my life, which is to be a bilingual pre-kindergarten teacher in the South Bronx. It was through my 4-year-old students that I found hope for the future. It was through my 4-year-old students that I began to realize, wait a minute, why are we waiting until high school to change some of the injustices that are happening in our schools? And lo and behold, 10 years ago, the first set of longitudinal data from the Perry Preschool Project was made available, suggesting that kids that had an opportunity to attend a high-quality preschool experience were more likely to succeed in life. I felt like I was Neo from The Matrix. Like, whoa! I felt like I knew Kung Fu because I had the combination of that personal first-hand experience in the classroom, and then I had the power of data to be able to say, hey, it doesn't have to be this way. We don't have to wait. We can start as early as possible, and we should. And it led me to come back to my beloved Los Angeles and to work for 2 premier organizations, the California Community Foundation, where I led a preschool advocacy initiative, and the Advancement Project, which is where I work now, to continue to build on that effort. And working with some of these partners, we decided to target LAUSD. We target LAUSD for one reason and one reason alone. LAUSD, though progress has been made, there's still lots of work that needs to be done. And in particular, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the earlier part of the educational continuum. And so we thought, hey, we're data wonks, why don't we walk in and show them some data, dazzle them with our information. Information like children that do not attend high-quality preschool programs, for example, are 25% more likely to drop out. That's a significant portion of children that are being denied an opportunity. We shared with them data around the affluence gap, if you will. A child that is affluent by nature, by the time they're 3, they know 1,100 words, whereas children from low-income communities only have 500 words as a part of their vocabulary. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the beginning of the achievement gap, and we can change that. But our state of California doesn't think so, because our great state of California continues to invest far more in prisons than that they invest in preschool currently, 10 times more. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a crime. And we are all, in some way, shape, or form, responsible for perpetuating that. And if that information is not compelling enough, well, then I'll have to drop the H-bomb. Information from Harvard. I thought, okay, this is really what's going to get LAUSD to maybe rethink its current position in terms of its investments. There is a gentleman over there by the name of Jack Shankoff, who is a neuroscientist, and he shows that the brain's malleability is a lot stronger in the earlier years as opposed to in the later years. But yet, we continue to do the same thing over and over again, yet somehow expecting a different result. And that big zero you see right there represents the amount of dollars early childhood education received from the changes in the local control funding formula. So despite all the evidence, that's what we received. But I'm not giving up, and none of us should give up. John Lennon. He inspires me, his music, because he dares us to imagine. He dares us to dream. And I know I'm not alone with him in saying that I'm not the only one that's dreaming about what's possible. And in fact, we have some good people in our company. President Obama, he's been the first president to actively call out the importance of early childhood education and to ask for its investments and to be able to articulate why it can change and transform lives for the better. And in addition to President Obama, these are my lovely colleagues who I believe 3 years from today, we will succeed in securing $1 billion in investments for children in low-income communities here in Los Angeles. Power of vision, ladies and gentlemen. And finally, he is the ultimate dreamer, Frederick Douglass, because he said, and I quote, it is easier to build strong children than it is to repair older men. And so with that, I leave you and I challenge you to really rethink how it is that we're going to transform lives for the better. Thank you.